Target is a psych up in apartment 106. Drug unit says it's one of Marcus' cyclists. Class 4 brawn with multiple priors spotted in the building.
Considered armed and dangerous.
C118, 40 meters. Ready to drop.
Clear the hall. Back inside. Lock the door.
Execute.
Aloha! This is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man, coming to you live once again from beautiful Hawaii here on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best movie reviews on the entire island of Oahu. And yes, this is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man. And here I am, live once again from beautiful, quarantined Hawaii, just like everywhere else on the entire planet right now. Still fighting the COVID-19 with who knows if there's any end in sight. But fortunately, there was a fairly new movie that has dropped on Netflix that premiered approximately about 8 months ago called Code 8. Now this stars Robbie Amell, Stephen Amell, and was directed by Jeff Chan. And well, without further ado, remember our rating scale. Shock a thumbs up. It's good to see. I recommend it. Shock a thumbs down. It's bad to see. It's junk. I don't recommend it. And for Code 8, it is a shock a thumbs up. Now, those of you familiar with my channel know that 8 months ago, I went ahead and I gave a non-spoiler review of this movie when I went to the world premiere there in Vancouver, Canada, to see it. And I actually met with Robbie and Stephen Amell and really enjoyed the premiere of the show. And along with a lot of other people who were Patreon supporters, they had first dibs at seeing this movie. Now, as I say Patreon supporters, or I guess Indiegogo funders, as in 2016, there was a Robbie Amell and I guess Jeff Chan had done a short film called Code 8. You can watch it on YouTube. It's only like maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But it's just the bare bones concept of what would become of this movie, this entire hour, 45-minute movie that premiered to the world and is now free streaming on Netflix. Of course, you can digitally download it, purchase it from anywhere else if you don't have Netflix. But, for your subscription to Netflix, it's a really good watch. And I highly recommend it, again, with a shock a thumbs up. Now, like I said, this started in 2016, a short film, just basically a proof of concept. Robbie Amell, Jeff Chan had an idea of doing a movie like this, and they had to show what they could do. And that 10-15 minute short movie that you can watch on YouTube, just type in Code 8 2016 movie and you'll see it. But that laid the bare bones foundation for this entire larger movie that they went to Indiegogo to try to get funding for. They were looking for $200,000. By the end of their funding campaign, they came out with $3.4 million. That's how much, people believed in this movie idea. And with that movie, they were able to bring to the big screen, and now Netflix, a fabulous X-Men New Mutant-like movie. That's the most I could compare it to. That's what it is similar to. Nothing out in DC really compares to this movie. Think X-Men, think New Mutants especially, in a world where 4% of the population has some type of superpower or ability, and is ostracized because of their differences, their abilities. Normal humans fear them. They are basically second-class citizens, forced to get dead-end jobs if they can even find jobs. Think of, there are many scenes where Robbie Amell is forced to attempt to do construction work, being like, say, one of these Hispanic people sitting in front of like a Home Depot every morning trying to get picked up, illegally because he doesn't have any licenses to work with his powers. Set in a fictional city called Lincoln City, where it appears to be like the 50s, early 60s, where people of powers were basically prompted to go and build this city using their powers. It was maybe a push at that time for a government to embrace powers and to use these powers from these individuals as the next step in what would seem to be industrialization. And so they build this city, but then, just as with many public housing projects, that are marveled as a step up for people, they become barriers, and people are ostracized to just certain areas and certain low dead-end jobs. And that is what happens to these people as we take up in modern day. We see Robbie Amell struggling to provide an income for his widowed mother, who has powers and is sick. Apparently, and this is going to be an entire spoilers review since I've already done a non-spoiler. She has ice powers. She can freeze things, lower temperatures, but her powers are out of control, and she is forced to work, just stocking supermarket shelves, maybe a cashier, whatever work she can find, essentially. And she was fortunate enough to find this grocery store job. But as she is older, we've discovered that she has a tumor, a cancerous tumor in her brain that is pressing upon the parts that control her powers. So she is slowly not only dying, but her powers are going out of control, which make her work and her life in public so much harder. But as she is the only income breadwinner in the family, she has to continue to try to get up and go to work each and every morning. Robbie Amell, her son, desperately seeing this, is seeking a better life, seeking good jobs. However, at many interviews, just like whatever your race that you have to put down on your application, it says, are you powered, are you not powered? And unfortunately, he has to do that, as everyone is registered and recognized pretty much as powered from birth. They don't go too much into how they were tested, but apparently it's probably likely that his father had powers, she has powers, so he's registered as having powers, and he has electric powers. Very powerful, as it turns out, electric powers, maybe on the higher end of the scope, the highest level of what normally in the X-Men and the comics we would call mutants, but here they're just powered individuals. This could have easily worked as the next Marvel New Mutants movie, or even a continuation or just a separate slice of that Marvel universe. And I'm shocked that maybe it wasn't shopped over to Marvel at the time. But so, in an act of desperation trying to get money, he tries to work that construction job, but is forced to basically cash for that day, and the police scrutinize if you're not licensed to work, which of course costs money. So many other people, like, undocumented immigrants, sit out waiting for cash-only jobs at certain places, and this is what him and his friends are forced to do. Come in Stephen Amell playing a criminal gang leader of some type. We find out he's working for a telepath that is actually a part of is the leader of a drug empire in Lincoln City. Stephen Amell is kind of his right-hand man, running jobs and errands, basically his leg man. And he has telekinetic powers that we discover later on. Very powerful telekinetic powers. So him and Robbie are kind of equally matched in that respect. But Robbie doesn't know much about his powers, as his mother attempted to raise him without the use. So Stephen takes time to build up his skills with his powers, training him for a massive bank job that his boss, the drug kingpin, needs them to rob this bank for $500,000 to pay off his debts to his boss, his overall crime lords of the city. Unfortunately, things go awry. They robbed the bank, but the bank had already taken in their goods. The armored car came up and picked up all the money before they had the chance to rob it. So basically, they put themselves at risk for nothing. They come up with a major plan to do a drug, to basically steal. This is basically a heist movie with superpowers, but a much seriouser one than, say, Ant-Man. Essentially what happens is that Stephen and Robbie Amell come up with a plan to steal a drug called Psych. And this drug is taken from powered individuals' spinal fluid. And that's what makes the drug. And that's what makes people so high when they take it. So there's, so you have a lot of like exploitation, discrimination, segregation, social economic issues, all wrapped up in this movie under the guise of superpowered, just like something that you might read out of the X-Men comic book, the New Mutant comic book, which really, really, if you're a comic book or superhero fan, you will really definitely love. Stephen and Robbie Amell get their people together and steal this drug shipment, going for destruction from the police, who use these robots. Think Sentinels in the mutants, in the X-Men and New Mutants Marvel comic books. Essentially, these are human-sized robots, androids, that go about and are put into harm's way because when a Code 8 is called, which is the police call sign for dealing with super powered criminals, they're no match for them. So they bring in these robotic assistants to basically be the muscle to take them in, which is entirely very intriguing and very interesting to see. And the effects are very good for the budget that they're working with. This is a much more superior movie than even X-Men Dark Phoenix that had just come out following this movie, and would have been a much better movie for Fox to have gotten behind and went with instead of the Dark Phoenix saga. If they had embraced Code 8 as a guise of a Marvel movie, X-Men movie, it would have been fantastic. But fortunately, this movie stands alone in itself as a very good superhero movie. Stephen and Robbie Amell go and do this robbery. They get the drugs. However, they are double-crossed by their boss, the drug kingpin, and left for dead. Robbie has to basically cut a deal with the police in order to get the drugs back from this kingpin in returns for turning himself in at the end. So thanks to the police's help, and Robbie and Stephen Amell are able to get revenge on this drug lord. Basically, they kill him in a fabulous special effect fight. You know, that's a must-watch near the end. And, you know, Stephen and Robbie split ways. Stephen steals enough product, this psych drug, to basically become the new drug lord in Lincoln City, setting him up for future potential. Robbie, before he turns himself into the police, this drug kingpin had lung cancer, and he was using this healer, this superpowered woman that had healing abilities to heal him up as his symptoms got worse. Robbie attempts to use this woman to cure his mother, to prevent her from dying, but in realizing that it would kill this woman attempting to heal his mother, he decides to let her go instead, realizing in the last mere moments that this is nothing that his mother would want. She wouldn't want to gain her life by sacrificing another. And he comes to terms with that, lets her go, and goes off to prison. And that's essentially the end of the movie. So again, a strong shock of thumbs up for Code 8. There's no excuse for not seeing it now that it is streaming on Netflix. So definitely go ahead and check it out when you can, however you can, even if you got to rent it off of Vudu or Hulu or YouTube or whatever, or Google Play. It's a fabulous movie. Again, if you're a superhero enthusiast, you like comic books, those superhero movies, the Marvel movies, you'll definitely want to check this out, because even though it's not an official Marvel movie, it fits in to place with the X-Men perfectly. There is talk of a follow-up, a continuing series with this show, with Code 8. I just read an article the other day talking about Code 8 is going to become a series with Robin and Stephen Amell returning as those characters. It's about 5-6 years later, they said, in Lincoln City. Robbie gets out of prison to find out that Stephen Amell has secured his position as the new drug kingpin of the city. And the basic plot of it is that they go over and they discover some serious police corruption throughout the city, and decide to take that on upon themselves and attempt to, bring these police officers to justice. Maybe they're behind, rivals to his drug kingpin, his drug empire, Stephen Amell's. It's still not 100% clear on that. Unfortunately, the platform for that was not picked up by Amazon or Netflix. It has been picked up by this new streaming service, Quibi, which unfortunately seems to bring it into some question on how successful it will be. But I hear T-Mobile, if you're a particular planned customer, depending on the plan that you have, you will be able to get Quibi free for a year. So if you have such a plan, definitely go ahead and check it out, watch it, tell me, what you think of it. I'll try to take a look at it when I can. I doubt I will subscribe to this new streaming service of Quibi. But maybe when it's all said and done, and if Quibi goes by the wayside, maybe Netflix or Amazon will pick up the series if it is any good. But in the meantime, definitely check out Code 8, starring Robbie and Stephen Amell. Is a great superhero genre movie that you can't lose with. Again, shock a thumbs up all the way. See it on Netflix, and you won't be disappointed. All right, thank you so much. This is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man, giving Code 8 a shock a thumbs up. See it, and thank you so much. Mahalo, stay safe, and aloha.